See, the Contra Adventure is a 3D action game that was produced by Konami for the PlayStation in 1998, and this game would be the follow-up to Contra Legacy of War that also was released on the PlayStation in 1996. And this game would continue on of the storyline with an alien infestation that was heading towards Earth, and it's up to a unique special forces soldier or unit to try and eradicate the alien threat by utilising a variety of different weapons and abilities to interact and to counteract various objectives and opponents as you play through the game. So this game would primarily be built upon 3D graphics, but still would utilise 2D side-scrolling features that would have been more commonly known in earlier Contra games seen on previous consoles, with the action focused mainly around shooting and using a variety of different weapon types in order to dispatch and engage enemies, while picking up various power-ups throughout each of the levels through defeating enemies and other pop-ups that would appear on screen that when you shoot them would give you access to different weapon types that will again increase the power and the damage that you can do to enemies to dispatch them a lot faster. But if you die, you end up going back to your standard weapon, which you have infinite ammo for. You can always keep shooting the weapons in general, but you have to be mindful because again it's a platform game in its nature, so you have to be mindful of various elements such as jumps, various obstacles, traps, and anything that can take you out of the equation. And what it does offer some nice graphical kind of features and style, but it is also very similar and plays a lot like scrolling shooters that would have been seen on the likes of the Sega Mega Drive, Sega Master System, Super Nintendo and other types of consoles. Just it's all in 3D. Now the game itself didn't receive great reviews at all. If anything, it got slated in the magazines, and for many good reasons in respects to it, even from my own experience of having spent time playing the game. While it does offer something unique, it definitely fails to deliver on so many parts, as the gameplay is quite repetitive. You'll notice that enemies just constantly spawn all the time, but then that was just a reflection of the way these type of games were developed. They were always like that. But where this game really misses its mark in terms of its combat abilities and style, but its platforming elements, because depending on your weapon types, it can take ages to defeat enemies, but yet they can kill you in only a few hits, or in a lot of cases, which doesn't make a lot of sense. Enemy projectiles to some degree can allow you to take certain amounts of damage where you can withstand a limited number of hits, which is fine. But then in other elements, and especially with bosses, if a boss even hits you even once, it's instant life gone. You lose your life straight away. And the same can be said with various traps and elements seen in the game. You don't just lose a little bit of health, you will literally just lose your life outright. So there's no real balance in terms of the play dynamics, because some elements will take health off you and allow you to keep playing, but then other elements will simply just would make you lose all of your lives just straight away. So it increases the difficulty of the game to a point that the game sometimes for many players will become impossible. I myself have witnessed to this as I was playing the game. I like what the game has to offer, but I can see the reason behind the negative reviews, because there's no real balance and there's no real kind of concept to how you can take hits from one entity but then completely be destroyed at one hit from another. Like, there needs to be a good balance in terms of the damage aspects. If anything, it's either one or the other in this game, and if anything, it hampers the experience. It really does, because if a boss enemy or if a powerful enemy gets close to you, you're dead straight away and you will lose all your lives almost in an instant. And depending on your weapon types, it makes it even more difficult to defeat enemies. You will end up spending an absolute entirety trying to defeat them, and literally by the time you have even gotten close to beating them, you'll have lost all your lives. And then if you end up losing all your lives, regardless of which section of the level that you're on, like there's 10 levels in total in the game, but regardless of which element of the level that you're on, you'll have to start the entirety of the level back from the scratch and go through the whole process again, and also trying to make sure that you don't lose your lives in the process. And it just gets too repetitive far too quickly, and even I found that from my own experience playing the game. Like, what it does offer some good ideas, but it fails and it falls short in so many ways, which is a pity. And again, it's reflective in its reviews, so I do agree with the reviews that it got, because there's just too many elements that just make the game too difficult, and in most cases completely unplayable to some players. Like, if you're a casual player coming in to play this, and if you do like these type of games, there's a very good chance you'll be disappointed by it, which is a pity, because I generally don't like to talk negatively of games, and I generally like to give games the benefit of the doubt. But I will be honest, every so often I will come across a game that it will test even my patience, and I can't look at it in a positive way. I have to kind of just call it as it is, which generally I don't like to do, but I can't. It's one of those things you can't lie about, in all fairness. Like, it does have some nice features, I can't deny that, but it's just the gameplay elements is what really lets it down, and especially with the hit mechanics and the instant deaths depending on certain enemy types. It just doesn't make sense, like how you can take hits from certain elements but yet you completely get slaughtered with one hit with other elements in the game. It makes the game very kind of unplayable to a certain degree, because you could get past one part only to get completely destroyed by the next element that you witness, and it can leave it almost impossible to get past certain levels. And this is even on the easiest difficulty, like this isn't even on like the hard difficulty, and it's like this anyway. So what chance do people have? Like, if there's people out there that have managed to finish this game, I applaud you, because this game would just drive a lot of people crazy. And for myself as well, I've kind of got to a point now at a stage when I look back at even games, and I used to always be very competitive, and I still kind of am to this day, but I will admit that if I find if a game is too hard now, and if it's too difficult, or if it's too tedious, or even just has silly aspects like what I've seen in this game where it just doesn't make sense, I find that I just avoid them now. I'll play them for a little bit, but I genuinely just avoid them because they would just drive me mad, and for me it's not good. Not for your mental health anyway, it's definitely not good, because you're never going to get anywhere and you just drive yourself crazy, so it's not worth getting annoyed over. And these games will annoy you in all respects to them, which I know is, I don't want to say it in that kind of sense, but that's exactly what's happening with these type of games, because that is what will happen to you if you do try to put time into these games. Now if you manage to finish it, then by all means, but for the majority of people, probably not. The only way this type of game will be beneficial to it if there was cheats out there where you had like infinite lives or infinite health. That's really the only way you'd finish this game, or even get any sort of enjoyment out of it, if I'll be honest. But again, it is what it is. It's a different type of game. It does have some nice features, it does have some okay and decent style graphics, but it's just the various elements with the likes of the damage physics just is terrible, and just doesn't make sense in the game, because certain elements you can sustain an amount of damage to a certain point, but then there's other elements like with boss attacks, or even getting close to bosses, or even environmental hazards, and you're gone straight away. To me it just doesn't make sense, and it really does hamper the experience, which is a pity. So I definitely think with this game, while it does offer something unique, it definitely falls short in a lot of those areas, and I can understand why people avoided it back in the day, because again, it will just drive a lot of people mad. And games like these here, when they do that, they're not really worth the time to put in, because they just will drive you crazy. If you do end up getting this game, it's probably only worthwhile just having as part of your collection, but you probably will never play it. So, but it is totally up to yourself. And if you have managed to play this game, and if you have managed to finish it, more to the point, I would love to hear whatever stories you do have of this, and I'd love to hear even more so the stories that you have behind it if it did drive you crazy, because I'm sure this game did drive a lot of people crazy back in the day. So again, I'd love to hear your thoughts about it. So if you do have any stories, be sure to share them down in the comments below. And if you have enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell to be updated of future videos. And if you would like to see more content around other types of side-scrolling shooters or platform games also seen on the PlayStation, you can check out the playlist here on screen to see more of those games in action. And as always, keep those gaming memories alive.